So up next, we have a wonderful speaker, Cassandra Salisbury. And her fun fact, I asked her what her fun fact was, and like most speakers, she gave me, I don't know, I'm boring, I don't have any fun facts. Turns out, she's actually a lot more interesting than you think, or than she thinks, rather. We all think she's very interesting, that's why she's here talking to you. She is the oldest of 9 children. That's right. And you don't live on a farm, right?
No.
No. Oldest of 9 children, doesn't live on a farm. And she was like apparently the president of everything in high school. Her class, the debate team, the choir, there was a school, like everything. So all hail the chief, I guess. Cassandra Salisbury, everybody.
Thank you. Whew. Okay. So we are going to dissect some gophers today and dig into our community a little bit. Let me get this to work correctly. There we go. So we're just to kind of start, we will go over who I am and why I'm here, what is going on in the world of Go, what the progression of the language looks like, understand diversity, so what does it mean, what is the importance, and hopefully we give you some tangible solutions. So, sorry. So good at this. So first, I am part of the founding team at Netlify, which is an all-in-one platform for deploying and automating modern web projects. There's my plug for the day. I also run GoSF, which is the largest Golang meetup group in the world in San Francisco. And I'm part of the core team of GoBridge. I run the chapters initiative. I'm also a ridiculously obnoxious Oakland Raiders fan. Oh, I'm missing a slide. So I did promise that we would dig into the state of Go and talk about why. But first, let me go back here. And I'm missing a slide that I added in. So you don't get to see a cute picture of me as a baby with an afro. But one of the things that I wanted to discuss is why this is an important topic for me. So you might look at this and know I'm slightly obnoxious, but what you wouldn't know is that I grew up in one of the most dangerous cities in California. I have experienced a lot of adversity in my life. I grew up with a white mother in a predominantly Black and Latino area. I have been homeless before. I am the oldest of 9 children, but 7 of them are girls that are under 13 years old. So lots of little sisters running around. You also wouldn't know that, I had a lot of issues with where I belong. And it is interesting growing up with a white mother in the area that I did, because I experienced all levels of racial inequality and gender inequality. Meaning, like, I'd walk in a store and be followed around because I had really curly, crazy hair. And then my white mother would come up and it'd be okay. Or, alternatively, I would speak too white for people that I went to school with, and I'd have that effect. So this is a topic that hits really close to home, and it's something that I've been involved in for the last 15 years. And no matter where I go, I seem to have to dive into the diversity of a community. And luckily, Go's been really great for that, and we'll talk about that more. So now, I love this. Now we'll dig into some numbers. So a site that I find really interesting is RedMonk, and it's because of how they rank. So a language must be observable within both GitHub and Stack Overflow, and this is because of the public exposure necessary to analyze this data. This really digs in how active a user group is, and Gophers seem to be producing pretty well. The question is whether or not we're consistent. So in January of 2015, as you can see, we were ranked 17. A year and a half later, we moved up 2 spots. So I would say that that's fairly consistent. You can also see that under Google Trends, the keyword Golang progressively moves upward, which is what you want to see. You want to see pretty steady progression on the web. now why we're here today. So let me preface this with, I love a good diversity talk, but I want to go over some of the numbers that we have seen in tech and in Go. More importantly, I want to provide tangible solutions. So I want you to leave here today knowing what you can do to make things better, rather than just talk about, oh, things are not that great, which we pretty much already know, right? So, is it important? I've asked a couple people whether or not they think diversity is important and why, and the consensus tends to be, yeah, no, it's important, because like you're supposed to have that. And yeah, you're supposed to have that to some extent, but why? So I want to dig into the whys behind it. After reading a bunch of articles and digging in and my own life situations, a few key points really hit home. The first is about teams being smarter and more creative with diverse teams. So this quote is really interesting. They found, Harvard found that diversity increases innovation and market growth. So finances, businesses, you have a team, imagine you have a team that all looks like each other and they pull from similar life experiences. That's not to say that they haven't experienced any adversity, but we can assume that they have not experienced the same adversity as someone of another gender or another skin color. I have conversations with friends and coworkers that continue to bring in new perspectives because our perspectives on life are vastly different. So, two heads are better than one. Everyone knows that saying. But if it's just a replication of the same head, is it really that great? So, diverse user bases, and this does apply to Golang. If you had to make a tool easier, more attractive, and creative, and create a better workflow for like a walnut farmer, what would you do? You'd probably ask another walnut farmer, because my guess is that you've never farmed walnuts. Frankly, I don't even know if you do farm walnuts. I'm not sure if that's what you call that, but the same goes with attempting to break into a user base that you have no experience with. A diverse team can address a larger span of user bases, which in our case as Gophers is ideal for adoption. Okay, yeah, that's great. We want diversity. It's good for business. We also want talent, and we want innovation. So if you're not able to keep women, people of color, and other underrepresented groups around, I'll tell you something, it gets around. I've had more than one conversation with individuals in the industry where we're looking for jobs, where we're looking for companies, and there's always that one company that you're like, no, I heard, like so-and-so left, she didn't feel comfortable, oh yeah, he had a bad experience. So you can, by maintaining the diversity of your team, organization, or community, frankly, and more importantly, retaining those people, you show that you're a desirable and more attractive organization to be involved in. And it just feels good, right? Like, to know that you're doing something, you're acknowledging the issue, and you're actively looking for change. So we know that we want Golang to continue to thrive. We want it to be innovative. Love that buzzword. We want talented people to be interested. And by bringing that into focus for our community of Gophers, if any of these statements are true, then we have to increase the comfort level of underrepresented groups and be cognizant that there is an issue, then find ways to encourage underrepresented groups to participate. So this is kind of my example slide. We see some familiar faces in here. One story that I really like is you walk into a room and no one looks like you, and you automatically feel really uncomfortable. So imagine you walk into a room of black shirts, and you didn't get the memo, and you decided to wear a lime green shirt that day. well, you were literally sticking out like a sore thumb. But maybe there's someone who's wearing like a hot pink shirt or a fuchsia shirt. I like bright colors. And you kind of cling to them because you realize like, oh, okay, they also didn't get the memo. I feel so much better about that. But you're pretty much going to stick away from the people who are all in the black shirt together. You're going to be closed up. When I came to Netlify, I immediately felt very comfortable with my team because it's an extremely diverse team. Half the team is from out of the country. We have people of color. We have women. And it made me feel like I could really open up, that I could lead much easier, and that my opinion mattered. I'd never experienced that on a team before I was with them. So, what about Go and diversity? Where do we stand? This is a super good question. We have no idea. We don't actually have data on where we stand as a diverse language. At GopherCon, if any of you were there this year, there was a whole breakout session and there was a room where we discussed the lack of data, which, you know, for programmers is like, oh my God, I need data. And we do know that generally we sit a little less than 5% women, or at least active contributors as women. And we haven't really been able to jump over that gap. However, I have heard from the Go team that there will be a survey within the next 4 to 6 weeks that will include some general data, and there will be a diversity section. So hopefully, at some point, I'm able to give you more solid numbers. We do know a few things in terms of tech and diversity. So you may have seen this before, but 5.4% of this sample data were women or are women in a GitHub sample. And that's pretty low, considering that 25 to 30% of the workforce in tech are supposed to be women. And 56% of women leave their careers midway through. And I think that it's important to just reflect on why that could be happening. And I'm not going to get into specific situations that I've seen or anything like that, because frankly I don't have time for it. I can on the side if you'd like. But I am sure that you have experienced something that you've seen that you've gone, oh, I can't believe she puts up with that. And that's why. That's why women leave the workforce. That's why they kind of give up. It really grates on your nerves. So this is that stat I talked about earlier. So if 25 to 30% of the workforce in tech are women, that looks like a semi-good number, considering I think it's between 46 and 48% women in America. I could be totally wrong. I made that up. Just so you don't tweet me later that was so wrong. However, only 15 to 20% are actually in technical roles. So a much, much smaller portion are in technical roles. And then that doesn't even include leadership positions within those technical roles. So just something to reflect on. I had this tweet from GitHub Universe, and it got, people kind of liked it. Things like this make tech an unfriendly place to be for all underrepresented groups, frankly. This one's just specific to women. So for those of you who don't know what a microaggression is, and I know it's kind of like a hippie term, microaggression, but it can be an everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slight, snub, or insult, whether intentional or, more importantly, even if it's unintentional, which communicates hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target a person based solely upon their marginalized group status. Yeah, that was a lot of words. It essentially is something that you do that you don't even really realize is super annoying, and it grates on you. So there's plenty of examples of microaggressions, and that's really another talk in and of itself. But it's important to be aware of what these are, and I recommend that you think about what other microaggressions are, or ask someone that you know who's from an underrepresented group, like, what bothers you? What have you heard that kind of just goes, I am so sick of hearing that. I have plenty. I may tweet about it later. So digging into it even a little bit more and kind of going back to diversity and creativity and how that impacts a business or a community, this really resonated with me. And I added this a little bit later into my talk, but these are stats on how finances are impacted by diverse groups, which may be not as interesting for this particular crowd sometimes, but it is success, period. It's measuring success based on diversity. So 15% more likely to perform with a gender diverse crowd, but 35% more likely to perform with an ethnically diverse organization. And to me, that's fascinating. And it's an insane number. It really shouldn't be ignored. In this study, they found that racial and ethnic diversity had clearly a much stronger impact on the financial performance in the United States than gender. So pretty blatant, the more diverse, the better. Another just kind of cool little chart that I found in research was what the millennial population looks like now compared to previous populations, and that is not rendering at all. So let me see if I can kind of describe this, because mine looks a lot different than yours. Essentially, the millennial population is one of the first groups where it's not over 60% primarily white, and there's a huge jump in mixed race, so people like me who are multiracial. The other thing that was really interesting, so I wish you could see it, is that the next generation, right behind the millennials, will be one of the first generations where white is not at all the predominant 50% marker. So we can stand here and talk about all these stats on diversity and how it's hard and it's important, and I think that we know this. We've seen a lot of diversity talks. We get that this is important, and with everything going on, we get that it's especially important. But my main reason for coming here today is to provide you with tangible solutions. So what can you do to make a difference? We're all really busy. We all have commitments. Lord knows I do. But what are specific things that you can do to make things better? What have other organizations done? I believe you should not reinvent the wheel. There's no way that you need to start from scratch in anything that you do. So one of the inspirations that some people in Go have been inspired by is a bridge. So there's an organization called Bridge Foundry. And Bridge Foundry is a group that was founded primarily to encourage local communities to engage with underrepresented groups by supporting organizations like GoBridge. So if you haven't heard about GoBridge, you're about to. We have a newsletter, a blog, and there's quite a few core GoBridge team members in the crowd today. In fact, I will try to take a picture with them and then tweet it with the GothamGo hashtag so that you can see who they are and maybe chat with them because you're so inspired by this talk. So essentially we're bridging the gap, right? Pun intended. Go has the potential to be its own tool in changing the makeup of tech. And that's like a really broad statement, right? That's like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. But it does have the passion and the community behind it, I believe. Ooh, did you wake up? To make a difference in how we attack diversity in tech. And GoBridge is a very good example of how to obtain those goals. So the main thought behind GoBridge, if you're not reading this very long slide, I'll give you a moment, is that if you take a small local community and you empower it to take its underrepresented group, then that small local group will impact the entire community as a whole. Very simple. We do a lot. This is like a very small portion of things that we do, but the main like big ones are we facilitate chapters in local communities all over the world. We build workshop materials. We oversee the Go Forum, and then you've probably seen a bunch of us in the Gopher Slack. And if you are not on Gopher Slack, you should go for Slack. I just made that up. I didn't even have that in my slide. So what can you do? Because I keep telling you I'm going to tell you what you can do. I'm going to introduce 3 tiers of commitment to encourage you to become an ally and an advocate. Some of you may be doing some of these things already, in which case you effing rock. I don't know if I can cuss. I cuss a lot, and I always feel like, well, you shouldn't do that in a talk. If you're already doing it and you're like, I'm already doing this, I don't even need you to tell me, then you need to get someone else to do it. You need to encourage your peers. That's one loophole I'm not going to let you get around. You know, grab a friend and tell them, hey, do one of these tiers. It's going to work for you. So these slides are long, but I didn't want to like bullet point at you one by one. So I'll just go down the list. Number 1, if you again go for Slack. I'm a fan, clearly. If you only have 1 to 2 hours a month, which is not a lot, just like don't watch the Netflix show that you were planning on to or something, or I don't know. Then go on Go for Slack and like talk to a newbie. Go give some advice. Go answer some code questions. Make people feel welcome immediately rather than having them wait for answers. Be encouraging. And more so, if you meet a newbie and they're struggling or they don't really have a lot of friends in the Go community yet, because that can always be nerve-wracking, then invite them to Go for Slack, because it's somewhere for them to go where they can be supported. Meetups. Meetups are good. I run a meetup, so I'm biased. But if you go to a meetup and you notice that it's not very diverse, talk to your organizer. As a meetup organizer myself, I really enjoy hearing what my members want from me. And if that is putting more effort into diversifying our group, then it's something that should be done. If you're reading about Golang, if you're reading about diversity in tech and Golang and diversity and all that good stuff, share the love, like tweet about it, be more vocal. I feel like people try so hard not to step on toes or not to seem this or seem that, that if you don't create any dialogue, we really won't see any change. And then the last one, I'm a little touchy about, like not everyone is, and microaggression, it's a micro one, so it's not something where you should at all feel unsafe. But like if you're not comfortable with standing up for someone or, you know, talking to the aggressor after the fact, like, hey dude, like that was not cool. Why'd you say it like that? Or maybe you could have asked that question this way because she might have taken it this way. Those are all examples. Then at least tell the person who was aggressed, say, that sucked. You know, I will tell you, having someone come up to me and say like, oh God, I'm sorry that happened, or I apologize on behalf of all X people or whatever, makes me feel a lot better than someone going, I'm just gonna pretend like that didn't happen. So medium commitment, so 3 to 4 hours a month, which is less than 1 hour a week. If you have like a specific skill set, or if you're inspired to teach, then help come teach a workshop. Help like write a blog piece. I'm a huge advocate of writing and blog pieces and technical writing. It's one of the things I do with Netlify specifically. So if you're inspired by something you learned, share it. And then better yet, you're always welcome to send that out to GoBridge or share it on Slack. And then GoBridge can help you facilitate where that can go so that it gets to the crowds that maybe don't necessarily have the resources. And then talk to people. Again, this is kind of more of a like round table type of thing. But, we don't always want to talk about it. It's great to talk about what's going on and how you make it better. And I'm running out of time, so I'm in a rush now. And then encouraging your company to make a difference. And if you don't have cash, then you usually have an office. So open that up to organizations. And then this is like hardcore shit. Like this is you want to make a difference. So you can start a GoBridge chapter in your community. Talk to me. You can contribute curriculum for learning Go. Again, talk to me or other GoBridge members. And if you're like, I don't want to start a chapter because that's super intense, it's not. But like you're worried it's super intense, then just like try one workshop and see how successful it is. See how easy it really can be. And then I'll close with this. It's just something I truly believe. And I'll let you read it, and I won't read it out loud because that's always weird when people do that with quotes on slides. But I really think diversity is at the core of making things great. So I am done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. That was awesome. That was really good.
Thanks.